Hey guys, welcome to Carver's Computer Corner. I'm going to be talking about something that that I've started kind of carrying with me. I need to be better about it, honestly, but just to kind of help me figure out when it's like, hey, this isn't working right. I've got a few things I can run to go, okay, this is what's wrong. Now there's the normal stuff of you go in, you make sure it's got enough RAM, you make sure it's got enough power, you make sure that it's going to do what it needs to do for what the person is doing with it. But I'm going to talk today about this right here. This is nothing special. This right here is I want to say 7-year-old flash drive. And in computer terms, that is really old. But it's not the flash drive itself that's important. In fact, this is only a 512 meg flash drive. But the thing that's important is actually what's on the flash drive itself. I've got a number of programs that I'm using, and this really helps me to really quickly narrow down any given issue with a computer. Well, not any given issue, but a wide variety of issues with a computer. And you don't have to use a flash drive like this. This is just the one I have everything on. I mean, you could have one like this or like this or something, but what's important is the fact that you have a flash drive, and I'm going to include links down in the description below so that way if you want to, you can also download these same programs. As I had to set up something real quick, just had to double check. I forgot the name of one of the programs and wanted to go back and make sure that I had all of them, so then I could give you complete information about what I use on this drive to help me. Alright, so if someone's complaining about, oh, my computer is running slow or it's running sluggish, the first thing that I do is make sure they have an antivirus, and if they don't, I would put one on so then they're protected, because, you know, viruses, spyware, those things will slow down your system a lot. And I do want to put a disclaimer here, do not install anything on a computer without asking permission first. Big rule. You don't want someone complaining about that suddenly they have this thing on there. Explain what you're doing, explain why you want to do it, so then it's like, girl doesn't have an antivirus, make sure she has an antivirus. But explain to her what it is and why she needs it. Don't just toss it on there. So of course, antivirus, and like I said, no antivirus on this, because if this gets infected, I use this enough that that infection would probably spread pretty quickly. So I don't have an antivirus on here. Now, barring it being a virus infection, I do have a anti-spyware tool on here called Spybot Search and Destroy. I have used this program since we first got online. It is a really solid performer. It doesn't impact performance. It doesn't have to run constantly in the background, and it's free. And actually, that is the big thing I'm going to say about every program on this drive. Every program I mention is free. And I've used Spybot for like the past 10 or so years. I mean, I've used this since we've been online. And it works really well. In fact, it solves some issues that I've had with my computer that an antivirus looked at, flagged, and couldn't solve. So it's good props to that. And Spybot is completely free. The only thing with the free version is that you do have to manually maintain it. So if you're putting it on if you have to put it on someone's computer, walk them through how to maintain it once the issue is resolved. Now, if it's not spyware, still walk them through how to use it. But I'm going to get now onto the next piece of software that I use to identify. Well, actually, it's a trio that I use to identify performance issues related to heat, which can be a big performance bottleneck, especially if someone is running something like games or 3D applications or anything like that that uses more power from the computer. You could run really quickly into heat issues. And the trio that I use are Hardware Monitor, Unigen's Heaven Benchmark, and Prime 95. And I say I use these as a trio because these three work really well together. I'm going to start with hardware monitor because that is the important one. Hardware monitor lets you get a real-time look at the temperatures and voltages and clock speeds and all of that within your system, and lays it out really well for you, so you can actually see it pretty well. It's not as nice as something like Afterburner, and that's also on here, and that's also free. But for something that you don't have to install, is 100% portable, and will run on pretty much any Windows-based computer. You can't really go wrong with something like hardware monitor. Now I use this alongside Heaven Benchmark and Prime 95. Now, if I'm trying to deal with something where it's like, oh, the CPU runs slow if I'm doing something like I'm trying to do some light video editing, or I'm trying to, do something where it might push the CPU a little bit, but that it doesn't seem to be performing the way it should be, running Prime 95 with hardware monitor will show you how hot the CPU is getting under a heavy load. Because Prime 95 is designed to push the CPU pretty much as hard as it can be pushed doing low-level calculations. This generates a lot of heat, and therefore will show you if they have adequate cooling. Now, if you got someone that's more into 3D gaming or 3D rendering or something like that, that's where Heaven comes into play. Heaven is really good at stressing your graphics, whether they be integrated or a standalone graphics card. I mean, you're hoping that someone that's doing something 3D intensive has a standalone graphics card in their computer. And if it's the case of the graphics card getting really, really hot, a program that I recommend adding to their computer, again with permission, is MSI's Afterburner. I have used this program. I've used it on several computers to help boost performance a little bit. It is overclocking software for the graphics card. Don't be afraid of that. Because the main thing I'm talking about manipulating here is actually going to be the fan curve. So all you gotta do is you're just going to, again with permission, put Afterburner on there, maybe kick up the fan speed a little bit. But again, this is looking at a symptom of something that could be a bigger problem. Now I do have a couple other pieces of software on here that I'm going to touch on briefly, because while they aren't major for resolving a performance issue, they are pretty integral in resolving security issues. And one of the top ones is a program called Anti-Beacon. It's by Spybot. Now, Anti-Beacon disables first-party spyware. Now, this is specific to Windows 10. Windows 10 has a lot of utilities that are designed just to keep track of what you do with Windows. It goes in, it disables the majority of Microsoft's attempts to spy on you, attempts to see what you're doing, and just makes your computer a lot more secure. Now, I do have a couple other programs on here, but those don't really pertain as much to securing a computer and more just programs that help me when I'm curious about a computer. And I will get into those in a later video, but for today, with everything coming up and people going to see family and family likely wanting you to look at their computer, I wanted to share this little piece, this little gem that I have here. So then, if they pull you aside to look at something, you're armed with something that can actually help you look at it. Alright, thanks for watching. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you feel like I missed anything. And I'll see you guys in the next one.